Greetings ladies and gentlemen, Adrian here, welcome back to the channel. So recently I put out my top 10 reasons to play Final Fantasy XIV, A Realm Reborn. It's a new player review that highlights the positive aspects of the MMO, and I did mention that I did come across a few negative experiences, and that's what this video is all about. Now the things I'm about to discuss are experiences that I've personally had during my playthrough, so they may not relate or be of relevance to you. But I still share them as there could be new players out there who may run into similar problems. Do note, however, that by the time this video comes out, the Stormblood expansion will have arrived and some of the issues I'm about to bring up may potentially be fixed, taken care of, or reduced in some form or another. And of course, if you are a current Final Fantasy XIV player and have more to add, do share them in the comment section below. Alrighty, let's begin. One of the first issues I encountered is probably one of the most frustrating experiences I've ever had in any MMO. It's the dreaded server disconnects, also known as Error 90K2. Those that watched the very first leveling stream will know that I started playing on the North American servers. But either because of my location or for reasons unknown, both my sister and I were getting constant disconnects while playing, and at the most horrid of times, in between battles, dungeons, story cutscenes, and it was a real pain in the ass. My first thought was to check the router and see if it has anything to do with my ISP. Once that was checked off, a quick Google search showed me that this isn't out of the blue. It happens to a lot of people regardless of where they were playing from or how close they are to the server's data centers. One post even suggested that it's a hardware issue mixed with connection drops due to interruption in the port and more that I'm frankly not well versed in, technically speaking. Some were suggesting me to do things like port forwarding, which I did not. It seems like a hassle to go out of my way to find a fix for this one MMO that seems to be the only one giving me this problem. In the end, we restarted on the Japanese servers, which was closer to us, and on top of that I bought some VPN credits with Mudfish and the disconnects stopped. I still have no idea what causes this, but from the volume of search results while researching, it seems quite a portion of the player base suffers from Error 90K2, so just be aware of this should this ever happen to you. Towards the end of A Realm Reborn, new players will have to take part in a couple of compulsory 8-man dungeons that are an integral part of the story. Because there are key plot points in these dungeons, there are story cutscenes in between boss battles, which is really poor design in my opinion. Years after launch and with the existing player base so far ahead now in the story, not everyone is gonna sit there and wait for newbies to finish watching these cutscenes. Because of how dungeons are incorporated into the daily leveling roulette, everyone just wants to bulldoze their way through the dungeon for the quick XP and rewards. I've been told that the devs have learned their lesson and this is no longer an issue for new players in the Heavensward expansion onward, so that's a good thing. But if you're a new player starting out with A Realm Reborn, just keep in mind that if you really want to watch the cutscenes, it's best to avoid pug runs altogether and join a guild that will be happy to take you in for the story completion. And don't forget, you can rewatch story cutscenes from your room at the inn if you wish. At the end of my leveling streams at level 50 and with a couple of game time subscription days left, I thought about going all in and getting started on the Heavensward expansion since it came bundled in with the game time purchase. Unfortunately, I was stopped dead in my tracks due to the very time consuming and strict prerequisites that needed completion in order to access the Heavensward expansion. This prerequisite phase between A Realm Reborn and Heavensward is known as 2.0 to 2.55. The expansion is main story quest gated and will require a certain amount of item level in order to advance. There are over 100 of these scenario quests to complete, and they do have dungeons in them mixed with really mind-numbing fetch quests taking you back and forth all over the map. That kinda put me off, but my real concern is that for newer players. These prerequisites aren't very accommodating to new players who want to catch up with their friends as soon as possible, but cannot due to the strict requirements that's time consuming. However, Square Enix are now adding a new option to skip this compulsory progression. For $18 you will be able to flag all the required scenario quests from 2.0 through 2.55 as complete and enter the Heavensward expansion. The same is also available for the Stormblood expansion requirements, and for $25 all prerequisites from 2.0 to 3.56 will be marked as complete. I applaud the option, but I think the pricing is bullshit. I will leave that up to you to decide if that's worth the money. Moving on, let's now talk about the one thing in the base game that I found really disappointing. Throughout A Realm Reborn, there are a ton of side quests placed in all the playable regions in Eorzea. Some will become available when you progress further along in the main story and revisit old locations, while some pop up when you meet the level requirements. The one thing that most of these quests have in common is the predictable quest design. Expect to see fetch quests and kill quests one after the other over and over again, and the different characters, regions, and reasons for why they need to be done does little to conceal the fact that it's boring. Almost all MMOs have them, they are a required trope and is a content filler, but Final Fantasy XIV seems to have twice as many of these. Because of how much experience points the main scenario quests, aka main story quests, gives you, along with all the necessary gear, I found little need to do all the side quests and just skip them altogether. In fact, a lot of the community have told me that these quests are best left for other classes or jobs that you pick up to level and get gear, since you can't replay the main story for the other jobs that you're leveling. I just hope that these side quests become more enjoyable in Heaven's Sword onwards. And finally, the last point is the level restriction required to PvP in Final Fantasy XIV. But it's no longer an issue as the new Stormblood expansion has removed the level cap requirement, and now level 30 onwards players can participate in PvP. As you can imagine, I am a little annoyed that this wasn't thought out sooner and the game waited 4 years to implement this. Again, I get the feeling that with Final Fantasy XIV, PvP isn't one of the game's biggest priorities unlike the main stories and dungeons, but the lack of level scaling for PvP prior to Stormblood I felt was a big missed opportunity to bring in a different type of player. If I had it my way, I'd do what most MMOs do and let players jump into PvP after level 10, 15, or 20 and scale them up, unlocking skills for their jobs as well. Anyways, for new players jumping in now, if you're big on PvP, then the new change will be great for you as getting to level 30 is pretty quick. As for whether or not PvP is good, I can't answer that because the level restrictions was still in place when I was reviewing the game. All the more reasons to revisit this game in the future, I guess. And that wraps up my list of issues in Final Fantasy XIV: A Realm Reborn. Again, these are my opinions from first-hand experience, and I have not played Heaven's Sword to experience the changes in quality moving forward. With Stormblood now here, I say again, I have unfinished business with this MMORPG and will definitely revisit in the future. All things considered, Final Fantasy XIV is still a wonderful narrative-driven MMORPG, so as a new player, as long as you know what you're buying a subscription for, you will undoubtedly get your money's worth. Don't forget to like the video and feel free to share your thoughts in the comments section below. Subscribe to the channel for more MMO content if you haven't already, and I will be forever grateful for your support. Once again, I'm GRM Adrian and I thank you for watching.
Hey there, I'm Batman. You reached the end screen of this video. If you want to subscribe to this channel, click the button in the middle. If you want to watch more videos, click the cards to the left or to the right. Now where's my Robin?